Welcome back to Orange County's Real Estate Hot 30. I'm Lena Fayyad, and next to me is
Holly McDonald.
So today we wanted to bring you a little light and fluffy Friday evening, you could say podcast, of course, but some information about lenders. If you have not seen our last YouTube video, we talked about VA loans, veteran loans, and with the continuation of that, we wanted to talk about loans in general and how important they are in your purchasing process. With that said, lenders in general really help you obtain a loan so you're able to finance your home. Holly, do you want to give us a little kind of uptake on, the pre-quals and the application process and how that really all fits into the big picture?
Yes. Finding the right lender and making sure that your information is packaged together appropriately is the most important thing. Obviously, we're all about helping you find the right house, but if you're not able to obtain financing, that's all in vain anyway. So I think the title of this video is that lenders, they can make or they can break the deal. And so it is crucially important that buyers start there, and they not only start there, but that they really take into consideration how important it is that their lender is actually competent and able to get the loan done. So here's a few things. Lena has a lot to say about this too, but there's a big distinction between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. If you've been pre-qualified, that essentially means that the lender hasn't necessarily vetted your paperwork, gone through all of your debts, all of your pay stubs, all of the things that they really need to verify to give you the best chance of obtaining a loan. Time and time again, lenders may confuse buyers in telling them that they have a pre-qualification and they're good to go, but the pre-qualification is very, very basic, and the loan approval process is very lengthy and very in-depth. Even if you have a pre-approval, that does not ensure that you're going to get a loan. But when you have a pre-approval, you're a lot further along, and there's a lot more confidence instilled in the fact that you will get a loan. So pre-qualification, very basic, bare bones, not necessarily verified. Pre-approval means a lender has actually vetted your information, gone through it, asked probing questions, made sure that you fall into the qualification realm so that they can actually, hopefully, put a loan together for you.
I have a question. So the pre-qual that, typically they can give it to you on the spot, really a couple days. Is it just basically an application the buyer fills out?
More or less, yeah. So it is based typically it's based on information that the buyer has provided to the lender. It could be as simple, some lenders I know in the past have gone off of just verbal, hey, how much do you make? Oh, hey, how much do you owe on your car loan? Just very basic stuff, and just taken the buyer at their word and said, you're pre-qualified as far as I go. I can definitely generate that pre-qual letter for you. But a pre-qual letter it's not like a commitment. It's just more or less, hey, we talked some things through, you should be good to go. The distinction is a pre-approval typically is further along in the process. So the lender has said, how much do you make? Okay, now supply me with evidence of that. How much do you have in your debts? Okay, now we're gonna pull your credit and see if that's on target. Because a pre-approval is has a lot more weight than a pre-qualification. And it means the lender has actually looked at everything. So many times deals can fall apart because a buyer thinks they're good to go based on what the lender has said. The lender hasn't explained to them that they actually need a lot more information to give them money. I mean, you're asking for a whole lot of money. And then, unfortunately, you could get into escrow based on a pre-qualification, depending on what the seller and the listing agent are okay with accepting. And then later on down the line, find out that there was a big mistake in your pre anything. So it's that can make a whole deal unravel. And so, you get your heart set on buying a property, and maybe it's like the one, you think it's the one, but then ultimately your hope to cash,
Your deal
you can't actually get it.
Yeah, and this goes into my second point, which really, not all lenders are the same, like you mentioned, and especially times like this right now, where we're seeing 30-day escrows are extended to more than 45, even 50, 60-day escrows, because the banks are just, 10 times more cautious, just, I guess, taking precautions right now. So, and we've seen deals fall apart. One of my deals fell apart, unfortunately, because the lender wasn't communicative in the past. And I'm not trying to point fingers by any means, but a lender that does not cooperate, like you said, could really make or break the deal. And then, yeah, so we can't emphasize this, more than we really could, because it really leads to being on time with parts of the transaction, like the contingency, the home inspection, the appraisal. So the relationship, I feel like, is a triangle: buyer, agent, lender. We all have to be in unity.
That's such a great way to explain it. I think, buying a home is a very exciting process, and everybody hopes that it's something that's so exciting and something that it's like a milestone. You hope that it will go smoothly and be enjoyable. If you don't have a piece of that triangle working together, it can make it very wobbly and unstable, and unfortunately make that process a lot harder than it needs to be. So having a lender that can communicate and keep you, the buyer, and the agent and escrow and everybody that's part of the team up to speed on what's going on can really help make everything a lot smoother. When people aren't communicating, it's human nature to think that there's something wrong or that you're being avoided, and that can lead to a lot of undue stress, which ultimately can play out in sellers getting aggravated and maybe threatening to cancel. If the buyer isn't performing, the buyers are getting frustrated because they're scared, they have money on the line, or they have their hopes and dreams of buying a house. So ultimately everybody needs to work together. And I know, some buyers ultimately want to chase maybe the lowest rate that they can find. And I certainly understand that rates ultimately pan out into what your payment's going to be, and that's important. But at the same time, if you're chasing a low rate with a lender that can't actually qualify you, it doesn't matter, because you're not going to get the house.
Exactly. What's the point? And I just think, like, the real estate market's like any other industry, it works on partnerships, collaboration, and referrals. And, when we're at a time, especially now, where everything is based on the customer experience and what they're, one little point of friction in the process, no matter who's responsible, really falls back on the agent. And don't get me wrong, I think we're all therapists in this too, but that's why I don't want to blame fingers. I just would like to say, pick your lender wisely. And I've seen sellers out there that would like buyers to cross-qualify with their personal lender. And I think that just goes to show the strong relationship the seller has had with their lender for so many years, that they want the new buyer to cross-qualify because he's confident that they can close with them, or that, their funds are on time, etc. So, yeah, I think, picking your lender wisely is a big thing. So you've seen buyers chase the interest rate, but then have a bad lender and not close. What's the point?
Exactly. It's really important. Just like developing a relationship with a realtor that you trust is going to have your best interest, the same thing goes for the lender, because they are in control of the money, the purse strings, if you will, and that's ultimately what's going to lead to whether or not you're going to be successful in purchasing a home.
Yeah. And we offer lender recommendations, and by no means you're not forced to use those, but really do your homework, search, look at reviews, search about what you're looking. Communication is key, guys, because if your lender doesn't call me, the agent, then I'm, wondering why haven't they? And I think a great lender is someone that's over informing their agent and their buyer about what's going on. Personally, just from my experiences, because I've been ghosted before, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm sure you have too, and you're like, hello there. So
that certainly leads to a lot of undue stress. And I think, ultimately we want it to be a good experience for everybody. I think the lender that you pick needs to be communicative. And like Lena said, especially right now, a lot of things are changing on a pretty frequent basis as far as lending guidelines. So even if you had a relationship started with a lender 2 months ago before the whole pandemic took over, things have shifted quite a bit, and you really need to find out if you're up to speed, and if your qualification's still valid or how it may have changed. For instance, I've seen some lenders that were requiring that the buyer have a certain amount of money set aside in their bank account as savings before they guarantee the loan, and now they're asking for significantly more. So if you don't have that, then you may not qualify for the same amount that you thought you did. There's just a lot of things, and I know a lot of people are going through transitions with their employment right now, and obviously that's going to impact the type of loan you might be able to get, or maybe it means you can't get a loan today, but hopefully in a few months you'll be back, on track. So you really want to find out where you stand so you can make the best plan.
I agree. And then one last thing I did want to add is, for all the buyers out there, you'd be surprised. I mean, yes, you could start out with an agent, but I've seen a lot of buyers who come to me already having a lender ready to go, because they don't want to waste their time looking at homes knowing they can't afford, or looking at homes thinking, look, I can afford more. So really start the lending process first, in my opinion. So, time is of the essence now, and to go into a home with a coronavirus addendum, etc., all of that. So all plays a role, guys. So buyer, lender, agent, we are a triangle effect here. We need good relationships, good communication, and just being open and honest about what's going through. If there's a delay, it's okay. We can manage it all, just with the right communication.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what Lena just said, when you do come to the table already with an agent, which kudos to you because you're already ahead of the game being pre-approved, if you want an opinion, we may have worked with that lender or that brokerage before, and obviously, we're not Yelp or anything like that, but we may have had some experiences where we could shed some insight and let you know, hey, this lender is known for delaying transactions or whatnot. So, I think it's always nice to know what your options are and possibly get a couple of second opinions, because ultimately, if it's going to delay things, and you may not even be able to end up with a loan, like if there's too many instances where it doesn't work out with that lender because they're not properly qualifying or approving the buyers, then you should know that. I mean,
they're just everywhere. I mean, yes, from time to time we get cash buyers, but 90% of the time we're dealing with loans almost on a daily basis. So I agree with you.
Not all lenders are equal. They're not all the same. And just like if you had a home inspector tell you that there is a part of the house that they felt wasn't functioning properly, you would want to know that, because then that might impact whether or not you buy the house. And so you have to think of it the same way with the lender. If we have knowledge that this company or this lender has a reputation for not servicing buyers correctly, then you may want to take that into consideration too, because that will ultimately play a role in the transaction most likely.
Yes. And we're just kind of putting this out there because we've experienced a lot personally. We've experienced good and bad lenders. I mean, good and bad agents ourselves. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but I just wanted to know openness is very key in your deals. And I've seen where omitting information could happen, and that can cause a big, big fiasco.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Nobody's perfect here, and we're not trying to say that we know better than anybody else by all means. But what we are here to say is that, especially with everything that's going on, we have personally run into several issues with buyers that either we're representing or on sellers where we're, dealing with a buyer who has run into loan issues. And, we do feel that many of them could have been avoided had they been properly qualified. And so that kind of led to us deciding that this would be a very relevant topic, and it's always going to be relevant. So there you go.
Exactly. And if you guys have any questions or need lender recommendations, we have plenty of lenders we have worked with in the past, are currently working with, and have closed escrows with. We'd love to give you opinions, referrals, phone numbers. If you need any help in getting a pre-approval, reach out to us, click like and subscribe. If you have any questions, let us know. Holly, anything else you'd like to add?
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for watching Orange County's Real Estate Hot 30, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.